Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Mel Sanders and Friends. Here today is January the 6th, 2022. We're in a new year. We're glad you're here to be a part of our broadcast. I have with me my co-host Cato, and he's you're going to be the friend today. Paula's not going to be here. She's got some other challenges, so she's not going to be able to make it. But how was your New Year's, my brother?
Nice and quiet.
New Year. Why do we say New Year's?
Because you said it. I didn't say it.
How was your New Year celebration?
My New Year. It was good. Nice and quiet. The last year just went by so fast.
Man, tell me about it.
I mean, really.
Tell me about it.
Especially when you're doing stuff on a timetable and, you have dates set up where you got to be somewhere at a certain time. Mm-hmm. It makes you realize just how fast the year was going, especially at the end.
I always say this. It reminds me of when a sink or a tub is nearly empty. That little swirl you see at the end, it just speeds up faster and faster, and it's over before you know it. It's gone. But since you asked, I had a very lovely New Year.
You did?
Yes, I did.
Well, what happened?
I slept right through it. None of the gunshots. I didn't even hear any of the gunshots that normally you would hear, from the neighborhood. I didn't hear any of that.
I'm trying to think if I text you or not because, we're not friends or anything.
No.
No, not even close.
No.
But I think that I thought that I had texted you and another guy that, isn't here. Was supposed to be here, but he's not here.
Our long-term buddy.
Yeah.
He's going to come in and join us.
People are going to start thinking that we're just complete liars. That we're making up this guy that never shows up. Because you said. I heard you say it last year. Yeah. I heard you. I know I heard you say it last year because I heard you when I heard you. For sure, next time. See, I remember that.
Yeah, that was a famous quote from back in the high school days.
Your high school days. I didn't have none of those. I don't remember none. No, for sure, next time.
Well, you weren't a nice guy. Nice guys usually get that the next times.
Okay, so this guy who is not here
shall remain nameless until he shows up.
When he shows up, then
we can tell everybody about all the lies he told us and excuses that he made.
Yeah, this is every time.
Yeah,
that this is the guy. So,
but when you ever meet him, folks, you will enjoy it.
Yeah.
He can carry a great conversation.
You will never forget him. Matter of fact, you're probably going to call in and ask or email in and ask for him to come back.
Yeah.
Because besides myself, he's been the best co-host. No offense to Paula, that the show has ever had. I'm just putting it out there that he is fantastic when you get him talking. Mm-hmm. And to get him talking, all you have to do is just ask a question.
Yeah.
And that starts it. From there, you're going, well, I was thinking you're going downhill. Because it's just on a roller coaster ride with him. He's so engaging and stuff. But
we're going to have a good time when he comes. And we're saying that about him because he's a childhood friend that came up with us, and he keeps his finger on the pulse of things that happen in the community, on the news. He has an opinion about everything. So whether it's right or wrong, he will have an opinion. So, we're looking forward to having him be a part of at least coming on and be a part of a show with us at some point in the near future. But
for next time for sure.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's recap a few other things that happened. Anything interesting in the last, the last 2 months of the year? Anything stand out? Not talking about national politics, but I'm just talking about locally here. Did anything stand out to you that caught your attention? Because we are going to talk about some national stuff that happened over the year.
Well, just as topics, there was the redistricting. That to me, that is very, 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 very important. Mm-hmm. Now, locally, so maybe we'll touch on that, but. All the shootings seemed like, I know it wasn't every day, but it seemed like every day there was somebody getting shot somewhere. Mm-hmm. I mean, Fresno, they get into pretty much close to the hundreds of shootings every year. So that's, but this period here where it seems like I said, it seems like every day somebody was getting shot. They're reporting somebody getting shot.
I was listening to a program on another network, another station, and former Mayor Jim Patterson was the guest. And he talked about the decrease in crime when he was mayor, and how I think the maximum amount of shooting deaths for 1 year was like 25. And I'm trying to remember if it was ever that low. In recent history, I don't remember that being, even when he was the mayor.
I mean, that doesn't go back 20 years. So, I mean, I would think you would have to go back that far in order for things to have slowed down or to be that low. I don't see that as a true number, because 25.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said
25.
During his tenure as mayor, they had
for one weekend. Okay, yeah, all right, he's right.
But I didn't have any way of verifying. Yeah, so I just
the
listened to him
stats.
talk.
You can get the stats. So,
and he was also asked a very interesting question too about why he didn't try to replace Devin Nunes, because he retired, resigned.
That was a shock to me.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
Why?
he's had fire on him ever since he was on the
Intelligence Committee.
Yeah, he. I mean, so he was in the spotlight soon as all of this here came up about Trump, but I was caught off guard. I'm like, what? I don't. He just voluntarily gave something's up, because he's not the type of guy that would just walk away and say hello. Especially there's all this stuff going on now still on Trump. It's like you were one of his greatest supporters and defenders, and then now you just want to walk away. Well, okay, so what does somebody have on you?
So you think it's that, as opposed to him taking up a job in the media area? Trump is starting a new media company, from what I'm hearing, and your former congressman is going to be the new boss, if you will. And this is why he said this is a great opportunity for him to, because he was mad at the media for a long time. He always talked about the media being biased and how they never reported the facts, and there needs to be some balance to it and that kind of thing.
But one station is not going to, I don't care what. His station, you got to look at it too. What is that? I believe that was CNN. Their ratings were dropped, and then their pay for, just like everybody else, started up a premium channel, and their premium channel wasn't working, and then they wanted to start up another one that was even. They were questioning, why would you start up another venue when the one that you had people weren't paying for? So, I mean, that just wasn't them. There was a couple that are really about to shut down.
So you're saying that Mr. Trump starting one may not have the success that they anticipate?
Maybe to his followers, and what you have to.
But they're very loyal.
Well, yes, they are,
and they don't mind spending their money, and they do have it.
But you have to look at. It's not just that, because he does have his viewers or his supporters, but okay, I was going to say that Trump is not like some of the other billionaires, because he's not.
No, he's a millionaire.
He's just a millionaire.
Okay.
That means nothing these days.
Oh, really? Well, why don't you just pass me a couple million over here, and we'll call it even. I'll pay you when I can.
After the show, no problem.
Yeah,
after the show.
Okay.
Man, we're going back. No problem. Matter of fact, I'll just double whatever you ask for, just because I'm not that type of guy. Millionaire. And their question with him being a millionaire, if you keep throwing around the word bankruptcy like he has, then where is your money? You don't really have any, because that company there can reorganize, but it's not going to be making money because it has to pay off the creditors. Mm-hmm. And then he can start up something just like he always has. He starts stuff and he hopes that it sticks on the wall. So that's why his failures. He's then people have said it. He's not that brilliant of a person to be able to make the money like he claims he does. You know, you can say I'm a millionaire, but when you dig into his finances, which he has denied ever since he got into the race or before he got into the race, and still clearly was fighting that. So I don't believe he has the money. He has the backing, he has the support, but I don't believe he has the money that to really put off something like that.
Well, when we speak about the opportunity for Devin Nunes to help him create a new media giant that would help to sustain a movement, I think they may have a chance at that. I don't, because, and I say that because several years ago, remember a guy that went down to Guyana? His name was Jim Jones.
Yeah.
And people followed him down there. And what did they do when he said, "Here's some Kool-Aid"?
You know,
so I think there's a lot of supporters.
Wait, finish that. You mean, and they drunk the Kool-Aid?
Yeah.
What does that sound like? They drunk the Kool-Aid. That's I've heard that, how they say, vernacular before, attached to when you believe something so well. That's what they say is you drunk the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
So Trump's supporters have drunk the Kool-Aid. That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm saying that.
Wow.
I believe that many of them have, and it doesn't matter what the truth is. It's what he said, and then
right.
I think it's way deeper than that. And maybe we'll say that to the close of the show. But I think it's simple, but it's way deeper than what folks have been talking about, especially around what's happened a year ago in January. To me, there's a lot more to it, and I'm going to share my opinion about that in a bit. But matter of fact, that's where we are on the list now. So maybe we can talk about it a little bit, about January 6th, a year ago, and what happened, and how many people were aware of what happened and help orchestrate that.
What? First of all, let me get your opinion on what you think happened that day. How it was orchestrated.
I think it was done to try to keep Mr. Trump in office in violation of the Constitution, but they felt like here's an opportunity that we can correct the wrongs that have been happening to us over the years, and we're going to be the minority. It won't be long before we're the total minority of this country, and we need to make sure we can maintain power. So let's use this opportunity to keep our guy in power because he understands and he speaks our language. So that's a rough overview of what I think happened, and it happened prior to January of last year. It had been building up prior to that. He just happened to be the guy that was articulate enough to mobilize the folks that were willing to go that far and do what they did. And even on some of the interviews you saw afterwards by other independent interviewers that now have YouTube shows who are part of other groups, but they asked questions of folks. They would be on the scene asking questions of people who were followers of Mr. Trump and what they thought, it's a very interesting conversation. And these guys that were doing the interviews, I think they were pretty clever because they would ask the question, and depending on what the response was, they would ask another question to kind of narrow down the person they were asking their view on what they understood about the voting and about the process of bad ballots and that kind of stuff. So, and it was interesting to hear them talk about, well, the other Republicans on the ticket, they won, right? So how did they win and Mr. Trump lose? And it was on the same ballot.
I saw an interview. Well, it was a program, and they were talking about kind of some of the things that Trump voters and Trump himself charges were against how he actually lost. And two of the reasons came up. One was that there were so many absentee voters who were incarcerated in prison. Now, I didn't say jail. I said prison, as in federal prison. So, because the county does not run prisons. The state does not run prisons.
Well, they
Their
do have
state board.
Yeah.
So in a way they do, but as we know, everything federal comes down. No matter what, they got their hand on it because there's going to be, as they say, strings attached.
Oh yeah.
Because you got to have the money in order to do that. But the statement was that's one reason why Trump lost is because of all the prisoners who were incarcerated in prison were voting illegally, and they said, "How did that happen?" When all the mail is searched, so you got a ballot. You're not when you're a prisoner. You're not allowed to vote because you're incarcerated. So
And
you don't
some
have
states,
that.
even when you're out of prison, you can't vote.
Can't vote, right?
Yeah, if you convicted of a felony.
How did that ballot get through to that prisoner when the prison guards who's checking the mail, every piece of mail that they're checking, every piece of mail? How did all those thousands upon thousands get through? Then the second was not just that, but there were people who voted twice. They said, well, how did that happen? You mean tell me that person walked in and voted in the morning, and then they came back and voted again in the evening? Thousands upon thousands. It had to be thousands upon thousands. So how did that person do it? When you come in, you check in, you're in the system as you have voted. So when you come in again, what do? They check your ID first to say that you are who you say you are. And then,
But not all states do that. California is not one that requires that. Southern states, yes. There are some states in the South that make you.
But the states that were in question,
yeah,
those states are the ones that see they're tying everything to those.
Yeah, but this is what they're not saying about those particular states. The states where there was an increase in voter participation happened to be coming from the black communities of those states. And those were the ones that they were contesting. They didn't contest, like in Wisconsin, they didn't contest all the votes in Wisconsin, just Milwaukee. Well, where do black folks, the majority of black folks reside there? In Milwaukee. So in each of those states that they contested, they were contesting particular areas.
Right.
And they couldn't understand how the vote count was so much greater this time than it has been in the past. And to me, it's very simple. People recognize who they don't like. And they came out in droves and sent the message.
And who they don't want.
Yeah, better than 80 million people said no to his 75 million.
Well, okay. Let's go back. Because I was glued to my TV the election night. And that was Trump was leading probably up until 10 o'clock, somewhere around in there, 10 something. Our time, if anything. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, that means nothing because, you're only talking at that point 15% of the vote was in, if that. And then I'm not sure how late I stayed up, but I watched it. And then when I went to sleep and woke up the next morning, first thing I heard is, he's squawking because he lost. And he's saying, his thing, how can I lose the election when I was winning at 10 o'clock? The vote had been certified. So I was winning then, so I had to be winning at the end. Well, votes change. They can switch back and forth if it's a close race. Right. But you want to tell me that because you were winning at 10 o'clock, that you're supposed to be the winner at 6 o'clock the next morning when all the votes are tallied and stuff. Now, come on. I'm thinking, see, that's why he's bankrupt. Because he's not a bright man. And you can't make a...
But he had an ulterior motive. That wasn't it. And I give him credit for being way smarter than that. He was on a mission, and his mission was to make sure we have a different look at how votes are tabulated, and let's make sure that the winners are the ones that look like me, and the people that count look like me. So that was his aim, and he was successful with that. He was very successful with getting that opinion out there, especially when you look at, man, if you put yourself, change your color, and then tell me that for all your life you've had everything you wanted, you've had privilege, and then you look at the calendar over the next few years, 20, 30 years, and you see a flip. You don't see as many as you see those other people. And those other people are voting. So now, wait a minute. We got to do something. And we can't wait till 20 years down the road to do it. We need to stack the deck now. And I maintain that that's part of the big mission. That's what I was trying to say for the end. But that's part of the big plan going into the upcoming elections, the next few elections. And it's done with the help of gerrymandering. Because in most of these state houses, Republicans are in charge, and they're drawing the lines. And you could have a 50-50 in terms of voting, Republicans and Democrat voters, but yet you could have maybe 13 or 14 state seats, Senate seats or whatever, and it's not going to be a 50-50 split in those seats because of the way that the lines are drawn. So they put everybody that supports, that supports your candidate, they'll put them all in one patch. And then they'll spread the rest of them out so that they can make sure that they have enough numbers to gain those other seats. So you, as a Democrat and a minority, you might wind up with 2 seats, and they get the other 11. So it's done by drawing the lines. And until something happens at the national level, it's going to continue to be that way. That's what the real big fight is about Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema saying that they don't want to suspend the filibuster, because they're saying basically we don't care about the inequities of voting in each state. We're a club up here, and we all have to get along. So we give and take among each other, and the rest of the country we don't care. I mean, we hear you folks complaining, but we look at history, and we've always come through it, and so we're going to come through it again. But they have neglected to look at what it looks like down the road. And those people who are party chair people across the country, particularly in the Republican Party, have strategically looked at how to realign things so that they make sure they get the outcomes they're looking for. And when you have in place legislators that are from a party that are going to be in control for the next 10 years, because of every 10 years you have to redraw the district lines, do you know how much help or how much damage you can do in a 10-year period where you have control of your state house, your local supervisors, your congressmen, your state senators, and you're of one party? Man, it can be devastating to the folks who are trying to catch up.
We, as in myself and you, we called a certain thing 20 years ago that things were going to change. There was going to be a change. We called it. We just flat out called it and nailed it. Well, it was probably more than 20 years now, but we called
1991
that change was going to come. And really, even at the time, you saw, if you want to, I don't mean to be derogatory, but you saw that monster there. But the monster was growling and standing up, but the monster didn't know how to walk. So at that point, he's not a danger, because he's not moving. You know he's a monster. You see him. You hear him growling, but he's not making a move to you or taking a step towards you, so it's not a problem. And we call it at the time is when that monster gets the we didn't say it that way, but
a taste of victory. They're going to be tough to handle.
If he finally gets himself together, look out, because he's going to change everything. He's going to run everything. And people aren't going to like it. And the people that we're talking about is not people like me and you. We're talking about people on the other end, way out north, who control everything for us down south.
And so would you say that that's probably a good reflection of what our Fresno City Council consists of today in terms of
yes.
And their actions?
Yes, they found their. I'm trying to be
politically correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
They, you know, we used to be they, but they still aren't where they need to be. I would probably say they're not that monster. They're not that monster yet. They're the baby monster, and they're growing and they're learning and trying to figure this thing out. And Lord help them when they do, because there won't be enough of us to counteract anything that's done. Matter of fact, one statement was made that not only in the future, what might have to happen is that black folks and white folks might have to join together in order to get anything done.
So do you think that's what a lot of this border war is about? I mean, it's not talked about in that fashion, but do you think that's what the fear factor is?
Always has been, is coming.
Why is it talked about so much now over the last, I'd say 10 years? And even 5, go back 5 years. It's really been a problem.
They were mad because they were citizens, how do you say it? I wanted to say citizenizing, which is probably not the word, but a lot of, and they were criticizing how that was run, and why was it that so many, just be frank, why was it so many Hispanics are being nationalized, and other people, other citizen races, say Italians and stuff, aren't. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not about the race that you have 20 Italians who want to be national citizens, and another 20 Polish. Mm-hmm. I mean, no matter what race, other than Hispanic, mm-hmm. And then you have 2,000 Hispanics who want to be nationalized. Wait a minute. So it's not about the race, because we can't help who comes in, however, and they want to be nationalized. Now, the Hispanics have jumped through all the hoops. They've crossed all the boxes and crossed all the T's. So they've done everything right, but you want to find a way to slow them down from coming in. Not just flat out tell them they can't come in because they've done everything right, but you want to find ways to slow them down from coming in. If you can't come across the border, then you can't get nationalized because you're not across the border. When you get across, that process starts.
Yeah, well, those are challenges that I don't think you or I are going to be able to solve in the limited time that we have here. But
I heard that you can do it because you can do anything.
Oh, yeah, well, if you believe that, I got some oceanfront property in Utah. I'll sell you.
You keep telling me that, and I keep telling you I'll buy it, but you never. So I don't know about you.
Because it doesn't exist.
It doesn't? Okay. I don't do that.
But the battle's going to be intensified even more over the next coming years, because voting matters. And to some folks, they don't see that. They think that their vote is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. But when you look at the sheer politics of things and how things in this country move, politics is involved. I mean, whatever your area you're looking into, whether it be the water you drink, the food you eat, the air you breathe, the gas you put in your car, whatever it is, it has a political connection.
Well, I see it as, sure, you have the Hispanic community that's a large community and going to be a large voting bloc. You have the black community who's always been there and really kind of step forward when we need to. to me, there's another community that is kind of not spoken of, but that's the Asian community.
Mm-hmm.
That's a large community.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a well kept secret.
Mm-hmm.
Fresno, to my knowledge, it has the greatest concentration of Asians in the nation.
No, I think where your daughter's, where is she in?
Wisconsin.
I think that's
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. I forget it. There's another Midwest state that is first and California is second.
Well,
and I can't remember which one it is.
Unless it flipped, it wasn't. But those were the two. But unless it flipped, Fresno still remained the highest concentration. Because when they closed Atwater Air Base, I mean that was a long time ago, because that was probably 35 years ago. But they were flooding in. The government was flooding them in, and they came through there and then came here. And a lot of them did come from Wisconsin and then came down to here. But to me that's a sleeping giant, because they don't trust the government. They don't trust the system. They don't really want to be seen. Really don't want to be seen. It's kind of like they're doing stuff in secrecy. Kind of like.
What do you base that on? How do you arrive at it?
Because there's a ton of doctors, lawyers. On that educated end, that's where they are, and they're going to college. They're getting their degrees, and they're in those positions that they know is to be good down the road. But you don't see them fussing. To me, the only time I saw a great concentration of fussing was when they were being attacked, which was, I didn't understand that one. But when they were being attacked during COVID, I guess because they felt that since
But I think that was a mix-up. People just painted everybody from Asia with the same paintbrush
because of saying the COVID came from there.
Yeah.
So they wanted to attach them. But that didn't make sense to me. But people want to do whatever they want to do and find whatever reason and make it stick. But I just think that's a community that they really should be taken aware of. Just like they ignore blacks. Oh, you're ignoring a total community there.
That are under the radar screen?
Yes.
Folks, you're listening to Mel Sanders and Friends here on the Valley Talk Network, and I'm talking with Mr. Cato, my co-host here, and we're just having kind of a round-table discussion. We had some other things we wanted to talk about, but our guests couldn't make it this evening, so here we are. But I think, when you speak about the Southeast Asian community, I think I would be interested to hear what kind of challenges they face, because they do have a lot of successful people, and I think one of the pluses they have is they stick together. They're a unified community, and that may help them stay under the radar screen. But it was just, I'm just wondering how much opposition did they have? How were they treated any differently than?
Well, you have to look at, to me, that they are in the same position as blacks were. They weren't paid attention to. They weren't the largest. They're not the largest community. Blacks weren't. We were in positions to in government and stuff. We and department heads. We were second in line, if not first. We were second. And then way behind us was. It was probably another white person. Then after that, there was a Hispanic down the road. Then slowly, as the Hispanics start creeping up, and they finally got in those positions. Now there's virtually no more blacks. There's a few that aren't those positions aren't available to, and so that's why I say the Asian community looks at that and says, well. In order to get where we want to be, for one, we're going to have to be educated, and we're going to have to be able to do this quietly, because making noise for us won't do us the same as it got for blacks or for Hispanics. So be quiet. Don't draw attention to yourself. Don't really make any noise. Think of besides that demonstrations and stuff that they had because of the COVID stuff. When's the last time you saw anything that was considered like an outburst from that community? You can't think of one. You can't remember one because there wasn't one. There hasn't been one.
But I don't know if what do you attribute that to? Because I think they didn't have the same challenges, especially as black folks had, but not even as the Hispanics had, because the Hispanics were watched because of their growing numbers and the potential of threat from their voting capabilities. But not even then were they really kind of in tune with the power of their vote. They believed in self-determination and working in a community to
help you.
Yeah, they would trade their money in their community 5, 6, 7 times before it left their community. I had some work done the other day at a garage to put some brake shoes on my pickup, and I drove in the back of this place, and when I get back there's about 7 or 8 different shops: paint shops, tire shops, transmission shops, rebuilding engine, in a small area where they all seemed to me they were all supporters of each other. But yet, if you drove down the street, you would never know they were there. So they have to be getting their business from somewhere, and I would think it would have to come from their own community, saying we're gonna take care of our own, and we're gonna be able to service our own communities.
Yeah, to me that's been proven that they do support their own.
Same thing I think is true of the Southeast Asian community. That's
Right.
the same thing.
Right.
I mean, when you look, you'll drive in the rural areas, you'll see them out working in the fields, and they'll have their crops. They're loading up. You'll see a U-Haul truck, where they've loaded a bunch of vegetables or whatever, getting ready to take them to market.
Right.
And yet, when you go to a medical center or a hospital, you see them there too.
Well, that's why I say that they support each other. That their mission is, let me get this education so I can get this job. They realize education is the key, and so they're willing to, work 2 and 3 jobs, and if there's 3 families in one house, it's important, and we're all in this together, and it's nobody faults that, because in the long run, it does help you get where you need to be. If you've got 20 people right there with you, helping you and supporting you, instead of you all by yourself, then that's the way to go. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think our problem as African Americans is the fact that not only do we have stumbling blocks placed in our way, and have had for, since we've been here. I don't want to be too hard on us, but when you have some of us who have been successful, who are not willing to help another person be successful, therein lies a huge challenge.
Can I label that for you? Put a label on it. That we have a history of being crabs in a bucket.
Yeah.
That I see you going up, and the first thought comes to mind, oh, you're not going to be the first one out of here. It's got to be me. And they grab and pull you down. Yeah. So nobody ever gets out the bucket because you're not going to be the first. Or you get out the bucket and you look back and say, good luck.
Yeah.
And
that's the one I'm talking about. The one that gets out and says, good luck.
And forgets about it.
And proud to be the only in the company.
Right.
That's the problem for me. The other people trying to get up and get out, I could kind of understand that, even though I don't think that's been always our history. What I've known is that the ones on the bottom would push the others up, and so they could get out, but they would always throw a rope back or some way back to help others
help pull you
up.
But
in the last 40 years, I've noticed that it's been a complete reversal because, good jobs and good income can be addictive, and it could be a problem to you having a mindset of, how am I going to help my brother? Why should I? Man, you know what? Me helping him means I don't go to the islands this summer for my vacation. If I stayed, I could help more. I could take that money and resources and make sure we made an opportunity for somebody else to get up. But if I do that, man, look at what I'm going to lose. I've never been to Acapulco.
Well, to me, I've seen it in the community where you have an opportunity, as say, I'm speaking of those leaders, they had an opportunity to help the community at the time that the community needed it, and they turned their head, or they supported the opposition, and that's what kept the black community back so long in Fresno, is because some of the leaders who were there, instead of standing up and speaking out against whatever was going on, they just said, I agree with you, which was the opposition. I'm on your side. Now, they didn't say that in front of a mic. They said that back in a room somewhere. So what you going to pay me? How much do I get? Because you know that the opposition is getting paid somehow. They're going to make money to oppose you. So you know good and well that if that's the case, if you're smart enough to be in that position, then first thing you're going to say is, well, what about me? What I get?
Yeah. And I'll give you an example of that along those lines. Years ago, when we were doing the elections piece in '91, and we were, moving the new NAACP and making things happen, I was at a meeting with some folks, and I was sharing with them my ideas and my concepts about what I thought could help make our community better. And there was an older gentleman there who was listening, and about an hour or so later, we kind of split up and went into different groups, and we were just wandering around. He came over to me. Let me talk to you. He said, I agree with everything you just said. You make sense. And I think you're on the right track. But let me tell you something. If you ever have a meeting with some other folks who look like us, and you're talking about this, I'm going to tell you I'm not going to be there. And I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to be there. I got a good job. I'm the only black at my job, and I like my job. He said, but if you ever need any money, I'll give you some money. It'll be cash. It won't be a check, but I'll support you because I believe in what you're saying, but I'm not willing to risk my. And, you could get mad at that, but I kind of appreciated that because I knew where he stood. There were so many other folks that I knew who probably believed like him that would never say that. Mm-hmm. They would just simply not get involved at all. And if they heard something, they'd go back and tell it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's just we have some challenges to overcome, and I don't know that we have. We may be forced to in the next few years to have to take a different path because I think the sheets have come off, and you're recognizing now who you are, and I attribute that to making it happen faster to the last president. He made people feel comfortable in saying what they were really thinking all along, but now they're speaking it because it's comfortable to say it. And they've been believing it. I don't think they just started believing it. I think they've been believing it all along.
Right.
But it's got to take a break someplace along the line because people are not going to just take it lying down. I mean, I didn't have much, and now you're trying to take my little? No.
That's the new beginning. Not to go off topic, but we've touched on it before about how the government, not just the government, but say the government comes up with fees and stuff, and you're supposed to pay them, and I know I'm very confident that that the car registration is going to come back around where they want to double it again. But they tried that. Double. Imagine double. So if you're paying $300, now you got to pay $600. If you're barely paying the $300, how are you going to pay the $600? where does that extra 300 come from? Wait a minute.
They don't care.
We have your registration, so you have to pay 600 flat out. You don't have a choice.
So what's the remedy?
Wait. So this must be the vision. It must be the vision. We are going to charge double the fees. So the person who pays 300, they owe us 300. Somebody must be imagining that person who owes 300, an extra 300, goes into their boss and say, "Boss, I have a car registration that's $300 more. I need a $300 raise." "Oh, sure, Sammy. You got it. You got it. No problem." How is that going to work? I mean, and let alone food. Food doubles. Mm-hmm. Now you're barely paying what you can to and rent. Rent is going up almost every month.
Yeah.
So where does that extra money come from? That's what I don't understand.
So, but here's the piece that I like to share with people when I'm talking to them about trying to make them see the bigger picture, why it's important to vote. You're a fisherman. I'm a fisherman. Fishing license, when I first started fishing, $6.50 per year. $6.50. Today, for one pole, $54 a year. And it's not year to date. It's calendar year. In other words, if you get the license in December, you got to get a new license in January for the same $54. Who makes that happen? Politicians.
Okay.
Who allows that to happen, rather? Politicians.
Well, but yeah, you're saying politicians. So how come, wait a minute, and you're right. It goes up every year. So who determines that it goes up every year?
The politicians. And I'll tell you why. Because they know it doesn't take that much money to fund that department, fish and game. But what they'll do is they'll take the difference and move it someplace else and use it for something else. And the reason I say that is because if you drive out to the Mendota Slough, it is covered with the overgrowth that happens every year. For the last 2 years, they have not cleaned that out so that folks could use it for boating or fishing, anything of that nature. They simply let the overgrowth stay there. Now, it's good for the fish because the fish are going to be bigger when you do get a chance to get to them. But the fact that they charge you as if they're taking care and maintaining that location, no, they're not doing that. So at some point, people are going to have to understand that your vote is important, even at that level of. The other one is when you got an older car, you need a part. You go to the wrecking yard to get your a part. They'll charge you, and then they'll charge you a core fee. Mm-hmm. They'll charge you tax on all of that. When you take the core back, they don't give you what you paid in taxes for the core. They just give you the basic price. So they just made an extra $1 or $2 on something that you brought back to them for a refund. Mm-hmm. But they didn't refund you the full amount. So those kind of things is how politicians take advantage of people who don't know and who don't vote. Mm-hmm. And that's one weakness that I see in the Republican Party in terms of them reaching to the minority parties. Because people can relate to their pocketbook on something that they're interested in. I guarantee you, if there was a Republican initiative to say, we want to fight this high price of fishing license, just for instance, guarantee you would have a whole bunch of people of color standing in that line saying, yeah, I'm with you. I think we should do that. Where do I need to sign? But when that's not enough of an issue to you as a party who has not demonstrated a great record of reaching out to minorities, you're going to say, oh, that's not important. But that's how you build relationships. Because if you can convince them of this, now what else can you convince them of? Because everybody's not, bad. I mean, not all parties are bad, but sometimes it's in the communication with the people they're trying to attract, whether or not they're going to get their support or not. What say ye?
I was just thinking that, and I was thinking of a question was, do you think that the Republican Party, I'm not sure how I phrase this, but do you think that the Republican Party has it within themselves to attract minorities on a grand scale? What is it that they need to do? Because they haven't been doing it. It hasn't changed. So as they say, you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get
insanity.
The same result.
Yeah, that's called insanity.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you think? And even I hear the Republican people, senators and stuff, and people who are fighting for the Republican Party saying that, well, we need to change and we need to bring more inclusion. Well, okay, so my question to you is, what do you see? Do you think that the Republican Party can get themselves together to where they can really be attractive to minorities?
I think if you speak to the issues that concern the minority people, that are of concern to you as a conservative or a Republican, I think there's room for marriage. Because let me tell you this, you have a Democratic Party that simply takes the people of color for granted. They don't give, most of the things that are out of whack now are because there's a supermajority in California, in the California legislature, state legislature. They're a majority. So they really don't care what the little guy thinks. Mm-hmm. So in order to have change, the people on the other side have to find a common denominator that will bring those folks to their side on some issues. You're not going to get them on all issues. But, the road to China begins with one step. So let's start here and let's see how far we can go. But that's,
you got to be willing to take that on.
And you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to be willing to understand how other people live and what's important to them, and not expect them to come up to your level all the time. Because there's some things about the way I live that would be attractive to other folks who don't live the way I live if they knew. But because we've never had that opportunity, or we've never taken that opportunity to break bread and to talk about things of common interest, it just doesn't happen. Well, they stay in their silo, and for the most part, black folks stay in theirs. And they claim that, black folks only want you to give them something. Well, that's what everybody wants. That's what government is about, providing the needs of the people who request them, and the politician does it based on who votes.
But the image is white folks get it automatically. They don't even have to ask for it. Because when that's
because of who making decisions. Who's the decision maker?
White folks in general is making decisions.
Well, then that's why they don't have to do that. They don't have to talk about it. It's going to happen because they're in common. Yeah, they take care of one another. But I think when you talk about reaching across the aisles and making sure that you are inclusive, you got to find ways to get there. You have to move some if you're the majority to meet the needs of the folks who are the minority, to bring them along. If you think your way is the best, then you got to be able to at least get their attention to have them listen to you. But when you slam the door and, oh, no, we're not going to do that. For instance, we're talking about policing. I was listening to, Jim Patterson talking about how many more policemen they had during the time he was mayor. And I said, did they ever think about a formula that put policing associated with council districts? In other words, if you have 7 council districts and you have 1,000 police officers, how about 500 of those officers living in the areas where they serve? Now you got another 500 that you can float, but I think it makes it a more of an effective police tactic if you have people who live there, because they're not going to treat people the way that a lot of times they treat folks that don't live in that area. When you can come at someone and that when you're off work, you're in Sanger, or Selma, or Corsko, or someplace else, you don't have to go home to that same community that you just mistreated. It makes a difference.
Can I bring up a word?
Yeah, you got 4 minutes.
One word.
Oh, okay.
One word. Clovis.
And that means what?
Well, when I was on my company and I was working, since I'm retired, that's probably the norm. I could take you on people on my
former routes.
My former routes.
Yeah.
That those police cars were there. That's where they lived.
Okay.
So that's not
But
new.
they were Clovis police cars in the Clovis area.
In the Clovis,
Yes.
in the city of Clovis.
And you'll find some of that here in Fresno because we're much larger. But as a rule, I live in Southwest Fresno.
Well,
I don't know of one police officer who lives in Southwest Fresno.
You live where? In West Fresno?
Southwest Fresno. Southwest Fresno.
I pity you. I pity you.
Why?
Because that's a rough neighborhood.
No.
I wouldn't wish that on a police officer.
No, let me tell you what the police. Years ago when I was with the NAACP, we were talking to Pizza Hut about building up. We didn't have a pizza facility in Southwest Fresno, so we're talking about building one in Southwest Fresno, sit-down place, not a takeout, a sit-down little restaurant. And so the people from Pizza Hut wanted to meet with our law enforcement folks to see if that was a good idea. Chief Winchester was the chief at the time. And we sat in a meeting room, and he broke it down to us. He had a big map. And he said, you know where I send my officers to get trained when we first hire them? Southwest Fresno, because that is the safest area for them to train. He said, most people don't know that. And if you guys broadcast this, you're going to lose some of them officers you got over that you may need because other areas really need the policing. Mm-hmm. But Southwest Fresno has a stigma attached to them that they didn't earn. That's right. It's a media thing. People pumping into, that negative, well, that's the worst place in the, no, it's the safest place. But in terms of things that you might need to, the amenities for a community, yeah, we're lacking. We're way behind. But guess what? We're out of time. We had a good conversation, and it was fun.
I was about to tell you a short story.
Oh yeah,
one of your. I believe he's a supervisor now, but we'll save that for another day. Because if I tell you that, I'm gonna be mad for the rest of the night. But we'll save that for later.
We hope you've enjoyed it. This was very interesting, and I didn't know Cato could talk so much, but now I know.
I'll be quiet next time. Promise. Promise. Wait. For sure, next time.
Okay. So until we meet again, folks, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Good night.
Good night.
JKH Career Coaching and Consulting, creating solutions in career planning, development, training, and placement. Contact Jackie Kennedy Harris at JKH Career Coaching and Consulting at jkhccc.com or call 559-307-7712. JKH Career Coaching and Consulting, creating solutions in career planning, development, training, and placement. Contact Jackie Kennedy Harris at JKH Career Coaching and Consulting at jkhccc.com or call 559-307-7712.